Hello, this is Mad Cat, and welcome to the part two of my series of why you should join Regarding Men by interviewing the founders. I started off with Paul Elam, which was a fantastic interview, and now I have Tom Golden. How are you doing, sir?
I feel better all over than any place else.
Well, I don't know how to respond to that, so I'm just
well,
going
there
to
you
go. So I'm super excited for this interview. The last one with Paul was fantastic, and it really helped me to see Paul as a man and not as a god, which so many of us do. And I'm really hoping for that opportunity today, but also, as many times as I've spoken to Tom in the Regarding Men groups, I don't think I've ever really had a conversation with him. So I am super, super excited for that. So that is what today is going to be about, learning who the fuck this is.
Who the fuck is this?
All right. So I want to start out, Tom. At what point in your life did you become red-pilled?
Well, it's kind of a long process, but the biggest switch was when I was a therapist, and somebody called me and said, will you take this guy as a client who's a victim of domestic violence? I said, I don't know anything about domestic violence. I specialized at the time in grief and death and dying and stuff like that. So I know nothing about it, but let me check about what's going on and I'll get back to you. So I call up the local shelter and I said, I have a person who's a victim of domestic violence. What can you do? And they gave me this whole laundry list of all the shit they could do. Lawyers and this kind of help and that kind of help and a place to stay and childcare and just everything. I mean, it's just all laid out until they found out. I told them, it's a guy. Somehow it came up that it was a guy. And they said, oh, no, we can't help him. I said, what the hell do you mean you can't help him? That doesn't make any sense. And it shocked me. I mean, I couldn't believe it. So the next day I called the center and got the director of the center thinking that, this was just some nut. And so the director of the center reaffirmed that idea that, no, we don't take care of men. So then I went to the local politicians and said, look, you've got this thing going on here that they're taking care of women, but not taking care of men. And they wouldn't do anything. So I wrote my female senator and my female congressman at the time, Connie Morella, and what was her name? Barbara Bosco. I forget her name, but wrote them letters saying, we got a problem here. There's not equal treatment for men and for women. And they did the same thing. They ignored me. Oh, thank you for your feedback, Mr. Golden. That everything is fine, blah, 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 blah. And it was at that point that I couldn't help but become at least redder pilled. I mean, it was like, because then I started seeing more and more that there's this gynocentric wave that goes on, and the wave takes care of women. The wave pushes ideas that are going to care for women and take care of them and do things for them and be concerned about their welfare, et cetera, et cetera. And there ain't no wave for men. So I started waking up. And at the time I was a therapist and working with a lot of men who were grieving. These were men who were just wiped out. I mean, one guy had his whole family died in a car accident, that kind of thing. They were just wiped out because men don't go into therapy unless they really have to, at least at this time. This was 70s and 80s, mostly 80s and 90s. And it was obvious to me that these men didn't act like the women, because what I've been taught in graduate school was you sit and you talk about it and you make good eye contact, right? Do men like eye contact? No, not in the same way as women, unless it's with another woman. If a man has eye contact with a woman that he likes, yes, he'll look at her in the eyes and, they'll dream together. But if it's another man, what does it mean to have eye contact? It means conflict. It means competition. It means put them up, pal. We're going to compete. Hockey has a face-off. Boxers face each other, and so I started realizing, holy crap, This is something different with men than it is with women. And so I'd had a number of years of that before I ran into this issue with domestic violence, of understanding that men and women are completely different when it comes to the way we process emotions. And it just, that just set me up really for the whole domestic violence thing, which then I started reading material by whoever. I'd read some Farrell before that, I think, but I started reading the list the guy put up about all the research on males and domestic violence. And it just blew my mind, and so that's how I got started. That's a long-winded response to how I got started, Madcap.
No, that's great. There's so much to unpack from all of that. And I believe I have heard you tell this story before. I believe in a little bit more detail, but yeah, it's just like remembering. And it's like, that is so fantastic. But, the thing that I take away from that, mostly in regards to this interview, is you were kind of ignorant. It's not that, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way, but
it's true.
You were ignorant about what the issues are. It's not that you set out to be like, oh, women need all the help. It's just like, hey, hey, this guy needs help. Wait, what do you mean you can't help him? What the fuck is this? He needs help.
Right.
So what I want to know next is, who was Tom Golden before he got red pill? Before that incident with the abuse shelter that you spoke with, before that moment, who were you?
Well, I was definitely blue pilled, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I thought at the time that the right thing to do was to help the woman change the tire who'd been pulled over to the side of the road, was to make sure that ladies were taken care of, women first, all that kind of crap, is just drilled into all of us. And so there's no way around it. I still have remnants of that. It's been how many years now, 25 years, something like that. And I still have remnants of that bullshit, that kind of, what would you call it? The chivalrous crap that's just automatic. I'm beginning to think that it has to do, at least in part, with biology, because testosterone, what does testosterone do? We know now that testosterone pushes men to strive for status. What is status? Status is taking care of women. You take care of women, people think more highly of you. You go up in the hierarchy. So I think that there's definitely a biological connection there for men. So it's not just something that's been socialized. It's something that's built in. And it's something that's very difficult then to dismantle because of that. I'm sure there's a genetic component. There's probably a biological hormonal component. There's certainly a socialization component. There's all kinds of things feeding into this gynocentric wave that most of us feel, that most of us don't even wake up from until we get hit with something like, the men we hear from all the time who are red pilled usually have something where something hit them out of no place and just smacked them down in a really traumatic sort of way. And it was only at that point that they started waking up and saying, holy crap, this is what's happening,
So you talked about the eye contact thing after, talking with men and seeing that schooling really wasn't working. You learned a lot just being out in the field. We actually had a conversation before we started. And how do you feel that once you woke up, how do you feel that your interaction with men, did it change? Or also, did it change? And did you try to help them understand the reality that you uncovered?
Oh, yeah, of course I did. I was stupid, and when you wake up, you think everyone should see this shit, right? It's like, what? You can't see this? Are you nuts? So one of the things that I did was I got involved with a men's group, and we're still, in fact, we met today. This is a group that we started meeting probably in the early 90s. And it's kind of the prototype of the regarding men groups. It's a check-in group. It's a check-in group where we all get together. We're Zoom now, of course, but you just get together and you say what's happening in your life. Sometimes, there's some heavy crap going on. Sometimes it's just bullshit. But you've got that group that has your back. And I'll never forget, my wife loves this group. She loves them because she says it takes the pressure off of her. I don't have to depend on her for everything. I've got this group, these guys, and it's like, it's a godsend, for men to have a group of men that they know that they can depend on being there, that men have their back. It's huge. It's huge. And most men do not have this. So that's one of the things I did was I made sure to be around other men who had a similar way of seeing things. And I probably avoided men who didn't as much as I possibly could, But I did, that's true. At the time I got involved with the what is it? The male group out of California that Harry runs. What's it called? Oh shit! My poor memory is Swiss cheese. But the National Coalition for Men. I got involved with that, and we did some things together with some interesting people. In fact, many of the people who were in the DC chapter are still out there doing things today. So I guess a lot of what I did was find other men who were like-minded and tried to spend time with them and avoided the others, but still stood up and said, wait a minute, this shit's wrong. There's something wrong here. Can't hear you, boss. I think you're muted.
Yes, I meant to do that. See your pretty lips. So, you're a licensed psychologist. You've been red pilled. You're hanging out with other men, learning things and your ICMI talk was a deeply psychological exploration of men. So this is kind of a loaded question, but what insights have you gained over the years about men in society? Yeah, I'll just leave it there. Like, what insights have you gained that the rest of the psychological community is unaware of?
Well, first off, I'm not a psychologist. I'm a psychotherapist, but that's all right. But, I can sum that up in 3 words. Men are good. I realized at the time that there's this wave, really, that's sort of like the gynocentric wave, except it's a men are bad wave. It's this wave coming in that says there's something wrong with men. Men are toxic. Men are jealous. Men are this. Men are violent. Men are, think of it. All the negatives are poured in on men. And men are bashed with this over and over and over again. And so a part of what I saw was that this one way to turn that around is to talk about men are good. And that really pisses people off. It's a lot of fun, actually, You say men are good in public and people look at you, say, what? Men are good? But think about it, Mad Cat. What did the black folks do in the 60s when they first started getting together and coming out of that mess, that racist mess they were in? You may not have been around at that time, but I can tell you what they did. One of the first things they did was they started saying, black is beautiful. Black is beautiful. And it's the same kind of thing as men are good. Black is beautiful. It started waking people up because blacks had been beaten over and over again by the researchers, by academics, by the water cooler people, and by the educational system. They've been told that they're inferior in so many ways. In fact, we know now that the research that showed that blacks were equal or better than whites in some areas, they deep-sixed it. Just like they deep-sixed the research about men that shows men are better than women in some areas. You never see it. It's gone. So here you had a population of blacks who, when they said black is beautiful, they were scratching their heads. What are you talking about? There's something wrong with us, It's the same thing today with men. Men are feeling battered and beaten and trashed just for having a dick, seriously. And that's crazy. It's crazy. Men are good, as are you, boss. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about what you're saying about them like 86ing all the research out there.
Mm.
And, that's one of my guiding principles for my upcoming book series, Boys and Men's Issues Handbook, because there is so much information that's out there.
Yep.
And most of us don't know it's out there. I
Yep.
mean, we have a vague sense it's there, but we don't know what's out there. So when we start talking to feminists and it's like, oh, well, men are like 90% of the rapes are men, and, men this, men that. And it's like, it's not true. And then they're like, well, show us your evidence to indicate that. And it's like, okay, I don't have it with me right this second, but then of course the reverse is you tell them to show their evidence, like, I can't do research for you, go use Google.
Yeah.
And that's what
Actually,
I want
they
to
can pull up research.
together, put it all together, so when we come up with these situations we can look it all up. So
Yes. Yes. And it's good for people to know about what research has been done so that they can defend themselves. Because we're up against a feminist group that basically has been cheating on research for decades. And we know that they're cheating on research. And so when you ask them to back it up, they've got these bogus studies they come up with, the domestic violence people. It's crazy. What did they do? They said, okay, we'll do research, but their samples are drawn from domestic violence shelters, all of which are filled with women who've been beaten by men. And so their conclusion from that research is, well, that's what happens. Men beat women. It's like, no, take a sample of the population in general and see what you find. And of course, what people find when they take a population sample that's general is that it's about 50-50, So, they can pull up research, but it's bogus. So we got to be able to say that research is bullshit. And here's why. So a number of the videos I've done on the Men Are Good YouTube channel have been just about that. How do you attack feminist research? How can you see when it's bogus? And it's important for us to know and to be able to do that. Because it's a tough one to be up against.
So what led you to start doing videos on YouTube?
Well, when I saw the domestic violence stuff, it just opened my eyes. And the more I looked and the more I saw, holy crap, men in suicide, men victims of violence, men victims of this, men victims of that, and nobody's saying one word about it. So the first video I did actually was a compilation of all of the areas that I saw men being disadvantaged in after I'd studied it for a little while. And it's still up. It's called Men's Issues. And I redid it during the Cassie J era. And it's all about, and it still stands today. I think it's a pretty good summary of the issues that we face, from domestic violence to reproductive rights and suicide stuff, the workplace deaths, the crazy healthcare stuff, where we have a website, womenshealth.gov. We have a website, girlshealth.gov. But when you go to menshealth.gov or boyshealth.gov, you got a 404, bad cat. What the hell's up with that? It's so obvious. They don't give a shit about men. They don't even try and hide it. In fact, when they had to put something on the web about men, they used the womenshealth.gov website to put it up. It's like, oh no, it's just sad. This gynocentric wave is tough. And people, because we're a part of it, we don't even see it. Most people do not see it. And it's just invisible. Like I like to say, gynocentrism runs silent and it runs deep. It runs silent and it runs deep. It's really, you can't see it. You can't even feel it. You don't even know it's there. You don't even know you have a lot of it. And trust me, almost everyone out there watching now has a lot of it. Oh boy. And so, the other piece of that is the gynocentrism is not all bad. It is a big part of why we have been successful up to this date. We have, because men have sacrificed and men have gone out and built things, and men are ingenious. They're genius, and they're persistent, and they love to tinker. I mean, because of all these things that men are really able to do. That's why our culture got built. Who was it? The woman, the feminist writer that I love so much, I forget her name, but she said, if men hadn't done what they've done, we'd be living in grass huts. And I think that's about right. That's about right.
Yeah, I do remember seeing that for ICMI 20. A woman talked about that. It's like, yeah. And I've heard that argument before. And there was actually, I think it was like a Dutch Survivor series where they took men and women and put them on two separate islands, not items, islands, separated by gender. All girls on one island, all men on another island. And it was so fascinating with the men. It's like there wasn't necessarily a leader. It's just this is what needed to be done. They went and did it. Women, they basically did nothing. They were kind of expecting other ones to do something.
Yes.
And all they ever did was just lounge around. Yeah. So to fix it up a little bit, they took one man from Man Island, one woman from Woman Island, and swapped them. Well, the woman on Woman Island, she was the queen because all of these men wanted to do for her, nothing really needed to be done by that point, but any of the chores that needed to be done, they just did and let her have free reign to basically do nothing. But the man on the Woman Island, they put him right to work to create everything that was needed and to do all of the chores so they could sit. So I do agree with you. There is benefit to gynocentrism.
Yes.
Our need to get laid is what creates the inventions. One of my favorite jokes is Galileo, when he invented the telescope, he used it to look at the women in the bathhouses, the first time technology was used for porn.
Is that the truth?
No.
I was going to say that'd be a great story.
So as we get into talking about regarding men, I'm curious how you and Paul became friends.
How did we become friends? I've known Paul a long time. Back when it was Men's News Daily and before that. And I forget, but we've been, we've known about each other for many years. What was it before that? I guess Men's News Daily was the first time he and I really interacted. But of course, Paul's been around. It's hard not to know Paul, But that's probably where we met. And since then, our paths have crossed numerous times, and we both enjoy each other's company. I love Paul. He's quite a character, and he is one of the most articulate spokesmen we have. Some of the interviews he's done have been absolutely remarkable. Just his capacity to be able to condense things down and to put it into short bursts of knowledge, just hammers it out. Good stuff. I really respect Paul for that capacity, and I also respect his ability to say whatever he wants to say whenever he wants to say it. Paul is just he's a force, and I love him dearly.
Yeah, I feel privileged. You could even say it's my male privilege to count him as a friend. He's just so easy to talk to, and I was always so intimidated. Like, it's Paul Elam, the God. It's like, what do I have to say to him? But it's like, that's the great thing about regarding men is everyone is equals. It's like sitting at the round table. No one person is above the other. Now we still kind of put you, Paul, and Janice above others, but that's not how you act. You just like, hey, I need this as much as the rest of you need this. And
yes,
that's what I love about regarding men. And just real quick, how did you meet Janice?
Well, I knew Janice from her Flamingo File stuff. And then she asked me to write a chapter for a book, and we corresponded then quite a bit. And, she is another force in a different sort of way. She is able to see angles that Paul and I cannot see. And her history with academia is just, really, really helpful. And she's read a lot of the feminist people. I can't tolerate reading much of that crap. I just can't tolerate it. But she's read a lot of it. And so you ask Janice and she'll go, oh yeah, so and so and so and so and so and so have written about that and this and that. And she knows them all. She knows them all. And she's smart as a whip. Oh man, I love Janice dearly. Yeah.
So anyone who's watching now, if you do have a question for Tom, I'm happy to read them to him. So feel free to post them in there. But so regarding men, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, seems to have started as a weekly or however often you did a YouTube video regarding men with the three of you.
Right.
And that expanded into the group that we're presently talking about.
Yes.
How did the idea for the video come together?
The video? Which video?
Yeah, your video series regarding men.
Oh, well, Paul and I have been doing videos together for a while. He and I have been doing all kinds of videos. You can go back and look at them. They're pretty old and pretty clunky at this point. But we both love Janice. And so we said, why don't we ask Janice, see if we could do one, the three of us together. And she said, yeah. So we did. And we all kind of liked each other and enjoyed each other's company. And that's how it started. And that's how it's been since then. It's been, maybe a year and a half, something like that. The three of us get along really well. I wish, I've been threatening to do outtakes from what we do. Because one of the things people probably don't know about is that we all argue about who's going to start the regarding men. It's pretty funny, because no one wants to start it. We say, Paul's going to do it today. Well, last time it was Paul's turn, and so Paul says, well, it's Golden's turn today, right? I said, what? And Janice says, no, it's not. I said, thank you, Janice. And Paul said, okay, I'm caught. It's my turn. It's that kind of thing. We're just back and forth laughing and kidding each other. So, a lot of things going on. What's that?
I said, you should have me come on. Of course I want to start first. I'm an attention whore.
Yeah, well, the three of us are all pretty introverted, I guess. And yeah, oh well. But we have fun. I mean, each one of us does a pretty good job at introducing things, and we all know we can do it, but it's just fun to tell the other person, it's your turn. You do it today. So
yeah, I do love the shows that you three do together. They're just so entertaining, so informative. And you three really do have a great chemistry together. But I do remember, and I don't know if this was a blooper or if you're trying to play a prank on Janice, but at the end of the Sarah Fuller video about a woman playing on the football team,
right.
She says, men, and you and Paul are silent for like 30 seconds before you say, oh, good. And I'm just like, was that, did you two set her up, or did you like not know what she was trying to do and then like, oh, okay.
That's a season-long struggle that we've had, that we play with, that we have fun with. And we always end the program with each one of us saying men are good. And we take turns. Well, it almost never works out. So that someone will say men, and then two will say are, or there'll be this huge pause between the two. You don't know what to say. If you watch them, you'll see it. The endings are usually funny like that. Well, that particular time, I think Janice said men first. And Paul and I were wondering, oh, crap, who's going to go? In fact, I told Janice later, I said, Janice, that was a good gambit. By going first, you don't have to worry about when to say anything next. And so Paul and I were both trying to, pause and wait. And I forget who chimed in first. It may have been me. But you'll see it in the ends of it. We always do that. And we always laugh about it, and we applaud ourselves when we can get it right, which has only happened 2 times in the past 10 or 15 times.
So in my interview, well, that's funny, by the way. In my interview with Paul, he talked about India's MRAs and the great work that they've done. And I forget the guy's name. He's on my friends list, and I apologize for forgetting your name, but Paul said that he was kind of a mentor in ways,
Yes.
doing the great things that they've done for India and trying to do it over here. And then he mentioned that, the idea for regarding men as an online group that we have today was something that you basically started, and that, it really worked with what he was wanting to do. Like, you got the idea and it just suddenly exploded. And what was it for you that kind of led to going from doing the videos to doing the online group?
Yeah, well, I knew from 25 years of being in a men's group that how helpful it is. And it's incredibly helpful. I mean, just to be around other men who know you and love you. That's you can't buy that shit. That's really good stuff. And I knew also from the work I'd done with men that men need a safe place. They need a safe place for 100 different reasons. But the biggest reason is, as men, we live in a hierarchy every day. And every day we are pushed to try and prove that we are men. And this is not some harebrained idea. This is something the research has now pushed. And if you watch that ICMI piece I did, it talks about the precarious manhood, which is the research that's gone on for 15 years or so now, that shows that every culture in the world judges men after the puberty, and judges boys and men as to how well they're masculine or feminine. And any man who then starts emoting in public, what happens? He gets shamed. He gets shamed, and he goes down in the hierarchy. This is why men tend to not emote in public. It's pretty simple. In fact, parents are pretty smart to say big boys don't cry to their sons. As much as we hate to say it, that's probably true, because when he gets out in the real world, what's going to happen? People are going to shame him if he cries in public. In fact, he's going to go down. He's going to look like not a real man, so to speak. And men live in this hierarchy all the time, even though they don't really know it. And women, I'm telling you, women have no idea of the trauma it is for men to try and stay up in this hierarchy. It's not easy. It's not easy at all, because women, once they hit puberty, they're women. All over the world, they're considered women. They don't have to do to prove anything. The men have to prove it every freaking day, and women are not sensitive to that very, very different world experience of men. So this is why when I was working with grieving men who'd been traumatized, why they didn't really want to open up so much. In fact, one guy, I'll never forget it. I was saying, can you tell me about what's that like, And he looked at me and he said, "Do you really want to hear this shit?" He was incredulous that anyone would want to hear his pain. And that woke me up, man. That woke me up, because I realized, holy crap, something is keeping him from being able to say what he wants to say, even with someone he's paying to listen. Something strong is happening here. And that something strong, of course, came out to be this whole gynocentric piece and the precarious manhood piece, which held men down in order to strive for status, to keep up as high as they could in the hierarchy. So it's at that point that I realized, holy crap, men need a different safety. And what men do, of course, we don't have time to talk about this today, but what men do is they will use action to connect in with their loss, to be able to process the emotion, rather than yapping about it, rather than talking about it. They'll do something, So anyway, the regarding men groups are a result of both Paul and I, and thinking about how we're going to help people, but my understanding that men need safety. Those groups are safe for men, and we strive to try and make it safe. Think about a therapist office, Mad Cat. Any therapist office, it better be safe. They build them to be safe. They build them so that no one can hear what's happening. They promise they're not going to tell the New York Times about what you're saying. It's like, it's built for safety. And that's what you have to make sure men have. Men need a sense that they're not going to be judged and thrown to the curb, for having a tear. You know, they're not going to be thrown to the curb for processing the crap that went down. I mean, this is something that we know now from the moral typecasting stuff too, that in general, men get less compassion than women in our culture. And think about it, that's profound. Men get less compassion. And what do we do now? We tell men, well, if you want to be judged as being a man, you need to act more like a woman, which throws men into this spin cycle. It's like, what the hell? Here I am striving for status, trying to look more like a man, and you're telling me that in order to do that, I need to be more like a woman? So we find some men fall for that crap. And some men indeed start striving to be more like women. This is the Division 51 line. This is what the psychologist of today, the APA, basically tells men, if you want to improve, you need to be more like a woman. In fact, one psychologist, when I was on this list in Division 51, before they kicked me out for being an MRA, basically, this guy said was, how did he put it? He said, the world will be a better place when men can start acting more like women. Completely ignorant of the way men are. Completely ignorant of our beautiful differences and how men are going to act differently, not just because of socialization, but because of our natural way of being, because our testosterone, the whole testosterone flood thing. Men need a different kind of safety. And when, I tell the women all the time, how can I help my husband open up and be more open? And I tell them, look, that's simple. That's really easy. All you got to do is admire him. They go, what? What are you saying? And I'm telling you, it's the truth. And I said, don't bullshit him. If you really admire him, say it. If you don't admire him, don't try and bullshit, because he'll pick it up in a heartbeat. But if you admire him, tell him. The first thing a man will do once you admire him is tell you how he's not doing good enough. I really admire the way you took care of the baby when such and such happened. Oh yeah, thanks. I could have done this or that. He's going to tell you how he fell down, how he saw his faults. As soon as he knows he's admired, admiration is a key for men. Because we need it. In fact, we need admiration from older men. The whole mythopoetic stuff in the 80s and 90s was all about that. All about how men need older men to bless them and to hold them in high esteem. Because when that happens, then the man sees his own worth in a different kind of way. That's what these groups are doing. Man, it's beautiful. You notice, Mad Cats, in the groups, the young guys will come in and talk about, oh, this should happen, that should happen, that should happen. The older guys will say something, sometimes a real quick statement, sometimes, but it's a blessing. Because men bless other men in very different ways than women bless other women. How do women bless women? Oh, honey, you're so sweet. Motherese, oh, you love it. Oh, you right? That's how women tend to bless each other a lot of times. Men don't do that. Men in groups, sometimes a hand on the shoulder says everything. Sometimes just a man saying, I got you, man. I understand that. I've been there. Just saying that gives the man a sense of fullness where he goes, yeah, he understood. I understand that he is blessing me in a way. And that is priceless, man. Priceless. Because in our fatherless homes and in homes that have broken up, men don't get the blessings of older men. They don't get the blessings of other men either, because other men are competing. Men are competing with each other, because they have to, because of the hierarchy, because of precarious manhood, et cetera, et cetera. So these groups are literally, and you'll see it, man. You'll see these older guys who've been there, who've been red-pilled for 10 years, are telling the younger guys, well, have you tried this? What really helped me was X, Y, Z, Just that little bit is a blessing. That means he gives a shit about me, And he's listened to me. He's heard what I've said. Being heard is another critical piece. How many times do little boys or even little girls say, Dad, watch. Mom, watch. Watch me, watch me. And they get ignored. They're not heard. They're not listened to. So this is what this is the secret of therapists is when you can really hear someone, then you're able to give that blessing. People feel heard. That gives them strength, gives them power, when you're heard without a shaming. And that's what's happening in these groups. I mean, it's just, it's an amazing thing. We've got these check-in groups. Many of the groups are what we call check-in groups, where men just come in and each man gets a chance during the group to say his piece. And he takes whatever time he needs to be able to say, I cook scrambled eggs for breakfast. Or he says, shit, I keep remembering about the trauma that when I was abused as a child. It's his time. He can say whatever he wants. And no one judges him for saying one thing or the other. And each man then has a chance as you go around the room. That's the check-in groups. And they're potent. They're potent. And then, we've got the news group, which I think you know about, Mad Cat. It's a group for people to come in and talk about the news about men. And I'll let you talk about that one. But we've got a writers group where men come together. And this is all men talking, no women there, talking about writing and supporting each other in writing. We've got a humor group where people come in and deal with the funny stuff. Mike Buchanan does the humor group. What else? We have a relationship group that Paul does on Fridays. And what am I forgetting?
Janice.
Well, she does a check-in group, basically, doesn't she?
And
one on spirituality.
It's be a check-in group, but what it often involves is just random conversations. People just start talking and then kind of build up on that. So I kind of look at not as a check-in group, but as a discussion group.
Yes. But these groups are potent and they're very subtle too. It's not like it has to be a hammer out of the sky that changes things. It's like just being with other men who understand you is a huge, huge blessing and an empowerment in many ways. And that's what these groups are doing.
Well, I want to jump in real quick because there's yes, 100% definitely. I've never felt so accepted in all of my life. And,
right.
I'm an attention whore. I mean, I love the attention, but it's like when I go out there and try to be the little kid, say, hey, mommy, look at me, I don't get it. And in here, I do. And I get to really talk about the things that I need to.
Yes.
But a couple of things I want to comment on before I talk about the group that I host, which I'm very thankful for. You talked about, men who now have to act like women to get any sort of sympathy and it being a trap. It is a trap. I mean, Look at the whole campaign of I bathe in male tears. Yes. Like all these women say, hey, I want a sensitive man who shares his emotions. The moment he does, he's criticized for it.
That's it.
Us in the men's movement.
It's a trap.
That's exactly what the women actually want is a men's movement. But the moment we say we're men's rights activists, it's like, oh, well, you're a hateful group.
That's right.
And then I want to jump onto the point of, what regarding men is. It's like I said, I've never felt so accepted in all of my life. I mean, I've had my individual friends, but it's like a group of people. We're all different people coming together, and yet we find so much commonality with each other.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I wish I could tell.
Gays, straights, old, young. I mean, it's amazing the diversity that's there and the understanding that's there too, where everyone understands we have a commonality, And,
I wish I could share some of these conversations, and I won't. I mean, I can share it with Tom because he knows, but it's just like some of these conversations are some of the most profound stuff I've ever heard.
Yes.
It gives me new ways to think about some of the issues that I face or that men in general face. And, it's like I said to Paul in the last one, it's basically a safe space.
Right.
But it is exactly that. The genuine purpose of what a safe space is supposed to be. The therapist's office. It is a safe environment. And that's exactly what this is. And, I can tell these group of men what I can't even tell most people in the world, because I've been conditioned not to share because
Right.
I know I'm going to be judged. Not here.
Right.
We actually get to talk. We actually get to open up. We get to be vulnerable
Yeah.
in a way no one else gets to see. And when I interview Janice, I'm going to bring this up. She has to be one of the luckiest women in the entire world because she gets to witness men being vulnerable. We don't get any judgment from her. I think we get more admiration from her
Yes.
because
Yes.
she gets to meet who we really are.
Yes.
And that's like the power of this group is no judgment, be who you are. I mean, we have atheists and Christians talking together about things, and there's no
Yep.
division of, oh, well, you don't really know anything. No, it's all welcoming in.
And Buddhists and Jews and Muslims.
Yes.
It's like you got the whole crew. It's good.
But as far as the group that I do, which was a very recent thing, so it hasn't quite kicked off yet, but I'm very happy with the result. I have people, because we see articles all the time just being on social media.
Right.
And, this is a great we see it, we react to it, but we don't really have anyone to talk to it about. We might post it on social media, but it gets a quick like or a quick comment. But if we try to really write it, no one really reads it. So I was thinking, if we came together doing a group discussing articles about men's rights, not only can we read it, we can discuss it and have a conversation about it to really explore it. And I think it has been successful so far because
Good.
we've had really great conversations as a result.
Yeah. Good. Good.
All right. So we're coming up to about 1 hour. We've got a little bit of time left. I'm sure a lot of people are going to see this video after the fact, but no one's really watching right now. Let me ask you this last question and then we'll start our closing. You've kind of already expressed this, but what is your response really to what you've seen? Are you proud of what you've created? Obvious answer, yes. But are you proud of what you've done? What are your plans for the future to take it to the next level?
I don't know if pride is involved as much as satisfaction. It's just very satisfying to see Paul and Janice and I develop a place where men can come and tell their truth. I mean, to me, that is an accomplishment. And I feel very satisfied to have been a part of putting that together. And it's just important for men because men don't have that kind of space. I mean, when we get red pilled, what do? We get isolated. Our whole family thinks we're nuts. Our job thinks we're nuts. The people we have as friends usually think we're nuts. So we get isolated, pushed out. But we can't change our minds. We can't say, oh, well, now, no. Once you're red pilled, you're finished. And so it's so critical to get those people together, who have this common bond in understanding the world as a different place. And that's what Regarding Men has done. And I feel good about its existence, and I hope we can keep it going. We'll see.
And any future plans on expansion?
Yeah, well, we want more the merrier. We want to get more and more people in there. We want to see more men be able to experience what we're experiencing now. I think we're up to 200 folks there now, and we're getting more and more people each day. So, we've been working on how to adapt if we get more and more people, and we've got a couple tricks up our sleeves. So we'll see how things work out. But yeah, bigger and better.
Well, one thing I will like to say about the group as a whole is, isn't just these three people who are running it. We're all running it.
Yes. Mad Cat is exactly right. It's run by everyone. You back, bud?
Oh, yes. It is run by everyone, but it's the non-moderators, which technically we're all non-moderators, but go with me on this. But it's the non-moderators who like go into a special Zoom meeting just set up for you go in there, you do whatever you want. And we're actually building a community of non-moderators just joining up together. And it's actually a really beautiful thing. We're not dependent on you three or the other ones of us being moderators.
Right.
We're taking it and making it our own.
Yes. Yeah, it's good to see men meeting other men who are close to their area too. I think there's been at least one example of that where two men were both on Regarding Men who realized they were in the same area and have met for lunch and are doing this and doing that. So that's one of the things we hope will happen, is getting more and more men out there in the same area, getting friendships with other men.
Yeah, I've actually met one person on Regarding Men who's in my area. Haven't met them face to face yet, but we've been in talks and trying to get that to happen. So. All right. So let's go ahead and close up. We got about 5 minutes left. So what are the best ways people can find you on the internet?
Oh, Twitter and Parler, I'm at TR Golden. So that's probably the easiest way to find me. Of course, Regarding Men is another way. menaregood.com is another way. And the Men Are Good YouTube channel is yet another way. So you can find me.
And I've heard you have a store on Men Are Good. Is that correct?
Is there a store there? I don't know. Where is that? I've got some items that people can buy that kind of cup. Men are good. Indeed, they are. There's a link on the menaregood.com page to the cup and to the hats. Where's that hat? It's not around. Yeah, the hat that says Men Are Good.
Yeah, it's on my wish list to get one of those hats. So
yeah.
Well, as far as me, go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
As far as me, be sure to check out my website, boysmenissues.com. It's still a work in progress right now, but it does have a shop where you can get your very own male privilege card, which has a list of all your privileges.
I'll bet it does.
And some good ones on here. Actually, when I was driving Lyft last night, we got into a conversation. He started talking about hyper gaming, and I'm like, I've never heard about hyper gaming. They're talking about women who are gaming the system. And I'm like, well, that kind of sounds like hypergamy. He's like, yes, that's what it is. And I'm like, then I kind of put it together. Hyper gaming, hypergamy, okay. And then I just gave him one of the cards. So there are a lot of men out there who are aware of this, but haven't really put it all together yet.
Yes, exactly.
So these make really good gifts. I only really charge for the postage to send them out. So if you want to get some extras, these are only 75 cents. So you want to get some extras to hand out. I've had a lot of people just order multiple copies. So also got other items on there for sale if you want to check those out. And I'm also setting up a publishing site to help people who write books who might want to get their work published. I've had a great conversation with Mike Buchanan, who also has a publishing for the men's movement. So we are technically now competing against each other, but we're aware of each other. But yeah, he gave me his complete blessing. It's like, yeah, go for it, man. I hope you're successful. So
all right.
I need to finish up the website, and then I'll be probably doing a video about that in the near future. So, Tom, I thank you so much for doing this. I really feel like I've really gotten to know you pretty well, and I look forward to future conversations with you.
Me too. And thanks for having me, Mad Cat. Appreciate it. It's been fun.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and end out. I hope everyone has a great night. or afternoon. So it's the afternoon.